Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Among.stouts. If you're new here, my name is Samantha and I am a homeschooling stay-at-home mom of 4 kiddos. And in today's video, I have my very first Q&A that I am bringing to you guys today. So if you aren't following my Instagram, it is among.stouts. And that is where I put up a story with a little question box, and I asked those of you that are following me to go ahead and put some questions in there of anything that you were curious about or wanted to know me. I basically wanted to give you guys a chance to just get to know me better. So it was open to ask me things about my life, my marriage, parenting, motherhood, homeschooling, all of the things. I feel like I got a really good amount of well-rounded questions to kind of cover a little bit in all of, if not most of those areas. So this, like I said, this is my very first Q&A, and I'm really excited to be bringing this video to you guys. Q&As are some of my favorite videos to watch just because I like being able to get to know the people that I'm subscribed to. So they're some of my favorite to watch, and I've been wanting to do one for a really long time. So like I said, if you guys aren't already following me on Instagram, go ahead and head over there and follow me. I don't post a whole lot in like the normal Instagram feed, but I do try to share something in my stories daily. So if you want some more behind the scenes on me or my family, seeing a little bit more of them, go follow me over there. And the next time I'm wanting to do one of these Q&As, you guys can go ahead and send me your questions as well. So go follow me on Instagram. It's among.stouts. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into these questions that I have. So the first question that I got is, do you have a favorite subject to teach? And I do have a favorite subject to teach, and not necessarily because I'm actually teaching it, but because my kids and I are reading it all together, and I feel like I'm learning along with them and in a whole new way than I ever did in school, and that's history. I have found a new love for history, and I'm so thankful to be homeschooling my kids and for us to be going through this together, because they are also loving history. And considering how much I disliked it growing up, it really makes me happy to see them enjoy it, but also to see myself learning it, truly learning it and understanding it and reading about it more, and just finding my own love for history. So I will say history has been my favorite subject so far to teach, even though, let's see, how do you deal with negative attitudes with school? We are definitely going through that. My kids don't necessarily have negative attitudes towards school. It's more of like just negative attitudes in general, like, or having a bad attitude just because something's not going their way or they're having disagreements among each other. That's usually where the attitudes come from in my house, is like just how they're treating one another. And as far as it goes with school, if any of my kids are having bad attitudes or negative attitudes towards school, it's usually because they're struggling in a subject and they're not wanting to tell me that that's what it is. I know last year when I first brought my kids home from public school, doing basic writing prompts with my kids, that's when I learned that my son was a reluctant writer. And so considering he was already in the 4th grade and I'd never really been told like that he was having these kinds of issues in school with writing, and he did his work, I never knew that he had that much stress and anxiety towards writing. And if anything, that's been one of the biggest benefits to bringing my kids home, is just learning who they are and learning what tics they have, what stresses them out, and just helping them to strengthen their skills in that area. So he had some negative attitudes towards writing, and I didn't do much. I stopped pressuring him, and I would ask him like, okay, just give me, kind of scaling back the work can really help a lot, whether it's in math, reading, or writing. Just kind of scale it back and don't put so much pressure on them, or even going down a whole level so that they're seeing more success rather than struggling. That can also be really helpful. Sometimes, like, when you bring them down a level and they're seeing that they can do it and they're building their confidence, It just helps them to be confident in that subject that they're struggling with, and to improve their skills, because they're not like, you know, having meltdowns over it. And I would say the same thing goes for my daughter with math. I ended up just bringing her back down a level and just really focusing in on the things that she was struggling with at a separate time. So she has her regular math lesson, and then at a separate time we'll go in and we'll focus specifically on the area that she was struggling with, and just breaking it down into pieces for her. And it's really helped finding the curriculum that fits them best. I know sometimes we want to just stick with what we like or what we know, but if we are flexible to their needs, and switching to IEW this year, or doing IEW this year as a part of CC for my son, was a game changer, and that really brought out the writer in him. And to like even talk to him now and like, oh my gosh, you're such a great writer. I don't think he or I really would have expected that in just one school year, to have seen that big of a difference. So those would be my tips, or just figuring out if like the attitude is coming from stress, anxiety, or struggles. And if it is, breaking it down into bite-sized pieces, or even completely switching the curriculum, or bringing them down a level. Okay, so what made you want to homeschool? There were a lot of reasons why we ended up homeschooling. I did a video dedicated to like the top 5 reasons why we homeschool, so I will be sure to link that in the description box below. But all in all, we went from Colorado. My kids were public schooled in Colorado. We moved down to Texas, and there was just like a huge difference in the schools. And I honestly had always considered public schooling back before my oldest ever went into kindergarten, but I was scared. I always talked myself out of it. I didn't have the confidence in it, and I was actually still in school myself. So I was doing my college degree online, and it just wouldn't have fit. But when we moved, and they were only in their public school for the first half of the school year, they went all the way through Christmas break. And I didn't feel bad at that point taking them out, because they hadn't really made friends yet, and we were still really new. And like, it came down to the schedule and the stress that public school was causing, like, to quite a few of us. And then I missed them. The number one thing was that I really missed my kids every day that they were at school. And it was just me and my he was under 1 at that time, but it was me and my little guy, and I just really missed them. I wanted them home with me. And as I saw more and more things, like, I feel like because I wanted to bring them home, everything that I was seeing at their school was just a negative to me, and all of the things that didn't bother me before were really bothering me. And I started watching and listening to homeschool moms here on YouTube and different podcasts. I even did like an online homeschool convention before I pulled out my kids. And all of it just gave me the confidence and the motivation to go ahead and just do it. I even reached out to a few people who were homeschooling and asked, like, do you think it makes any sense for me to pull my kids out midway, or should I just finish the school year? And everyone told me, if you want to pull them out, just pull them out. There's no sense in making them finish out the year. In hindsight, it ended up being the best decision, because I pulled them out after Christmas break. They went back that first week back in January so that they could turn everything in, and then they were home. And then in March, whenever COVID hit, everything shut down anyway. So it ended up being a really great decision to go ahead and pull them out, and we haven't looked back. We are loving having our kids home, and I feel like they're really flourishing, and they're doing a lot better, and I'm seeing them and their personalities in a whole new way, and really knowing them, because one of the biggest things is I feel like I didn't really know my kids before homeschooling, and I'm really learning who they are and appreciating them more for it. So definitely check out that video that I'll link below for our top 5 reasons. But that, in a nutshell, is why we decided to go with homeschooling. And then, where would your ideal vacation be? I'm pretty simple. I love the beach. We were once stationed in Florida. My husband was stationed at Hurlburt Field, and so we lived in Destin, and I absolutely loved it there. And I know it's not like a super fancy place or another country, but I could vacation there year after year after year and be perfectly content and happy. I just love it there so much. So a Florida vacation would be my ideal vacation. Okay. So the next question that I have is, do you think homeschooling your kids can cause them to be antisocial or shy? And this is a big no. And this is because I have, my kids started off in public school, and my kids are all naturally shy. So I don't think that by homeschooling them is going to make them shy or make them any more shyer than they already were. I was public schooled, and I all the way from being a small child into a grown adult was shy. It was like in my 20s whenever I finally got over that. But I don't think that where your kid goes to school, whether it's at home or public school, private school, charter school, I don't think that has anything to do with them being shy or not. That's just their personalities. And I also don't think that it has anything to do with them being antisocial or social butterflies, because again, I wouldn't say that I was necessarily antisocial, but I've always only had just a few friends. I like smaller groups, I like personal connections, and I like to have really close connections. So I'm not someone who has ever had like huge groups of friends. My husband is that person. He, growing up, always had a ton of friends, and that's just not me. And like I said, I was public schooled, and my kids, they aren't antisocial. They get out, they have friends. We're part of a CC community, so I think that if you still get out of the house with your kids, they're not going to be antisocial. And even if they are antisocial, like, that's totally okay, because that's probably just their personality as well. A lot of us like to be social on our own terms, and I personally think that's okay. Okay, so then another question kind of going along with that is, how will your kids deal with the real world? And this one, I find it really hilarious, because somehow people equate public school to being prepared for the real world, and that's just not the case. Going to school and going to public school, private school, charter school, whatever it is, being in a building and being in a classroom with one adult and peers among your kiddos that are their exact same age is not the real world. Like, the real world is what we're doing when we're homeschooling. We are at home learning, but we have the ability every single day to get out of the house and go on adventures, or go shopping, or go to the library, or go to a museum and live life in the real world. The real world isn't being in four walls with the kids your same age. That's not it. So that's my thing for that answer, is the real world is getting out into the real world, not being in walls. Okay. So the next question is, where and how do you start? Is there a set curriculum? No, there is not a set curriculum. There may be set requirements depending on what state you're living in, on what you can or what you're supposed to teach, how much you're supposed to teach. Being in the state of Texas, we have very few requirements that are asked of us. It's your basic core subjects, and that's it. That's all Texas requires. And again, I have a video talking all about how to start homeschooling in the state of Texas specifically, that I will link in the comments below. But really, all you have to do is, if you have a kiddo that's going into kindergarten, you have to do nothing at all. You just find a curriculum or a method of homeschooling that you want to do, and you start. If your kids are already in public school, you need to send your school a withdrawal letter, whether that's in the middle of the year or at the end of the school year. You have to submit a withdrawal letter to your administration. And then right after that, you're able to start homeschooling. So it's really easy to start here in the state of Texas. Go watch that video and get all that info if you are looking for it. So the next one that I have is, how do you budget for homeschool? And this is a good question, because I don't, but I need to. We kind of have just been trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work for us. I've bought things that I thought would work and we haven't touched them. I bought things that I thought would work and they didn't, so we put them back on the shelf. And I have bought things that have really worked and we will probably stick to it year after year until it doesn't work. And it's just kind of been a fluid thing. Like, if I need something, I bring it to my husband, and if it works in our budget, then we buy it. But we haven't really talked about a spending budget to start the school year off with, and then like stop when I've hit that. But that's probably something that we should do, because this last school year have gone quite book crazy and have probably way overmaxed a budget if my husband had one set. So that is something that we need to talk about and definitely set and be able to manage that spending better. Okay, so the next one is a parenting question, and it's top parenting advice that you were given that has been helpful. Let's see. I think that my top advice has come now that, I think that the top advice that I've given as far as parenting goes has been for me now that my kids are older. And I think this has been the best advice, and it's been really helpful to me specifically because of the type of person and personality that I have, which is type A and quite controlling. And the best advice that I got is to like let my kids when I brought my kids home to homeschool them, and I like wanted to start right away, like with the structure and the control. The best advice I ever got was to just like let them be. Let them figure things out and let them figure themselves out, and just kind of watch them and watch their behaviors, and to help them find their interests, and then for me to build what I am doing for them according to their interests, if that makes any sense. I can't remember exactly how it was worded to me, but it takes a lot of that pressure off of me for being controlling, like trying to force something onto my kid for them to do, or anything like that, but just letting my kids figure out who they are and being okay with that, and then just strengthening and helping them being confident in who they are, and just letting them lead me in their learning in some areas. And so I think that's the best advice that I've been given, and it's been really helpful, because that kind of goes like with the negative attitudes. If you let your children lead you and you follow their interests and their passions, you'll get a lot less of that negative attitude and stuff like that they might be having towards school. Okay, next. Was it hard to decide to go ahead and start homeschooling? Were you nervous? Yes, the decision was hard to start homeschooling, and that's because, like I said, it was something that my husband and I considered before my oldest ever went to public school, and he's in the 5th grade now, soon to be in the 6th grade. So that was years. That was like, 5 years of being scared and being nervous and not having confidence in myself to just go ahead and do it. So definitely it was hard to go ahead and start, but I feel like once you just rip that Band-Aid off, whether it's the middle of a school year or the end of a school year or the start of a school year, just rip that Band-Aid off if you've decided that it's what you want to do, and just do it. I feel like if I would have gone with just, I'm going to let my kids finish out the school year, it probably would have been harder. But by ripping the Band-Aid off and just pulling them out midway through the year, I think that really helped me to go ahead with that decision. And also, me and my husband can both be very indecisive. So that's kind of like one of the hard things about our marriage is it's both hard. It's hard for both of us to make decisions. And when we're trying to make this decision together and we're like, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? So it came down to, we finally just had to say, this is what we're doing, and just do it. And was I nervous? Yes, I was very nervous. Number one, because you have to send this letter and you have no idea what they're going to say to you, or what they're going to try to tell you, because there's stories of them lying to you about stuff and everything. So I was nervous about what the school would say and how they would respond, how their teachers would react. But I wasn't really nervous about schooling them. I do lack confidence in areas, and I do doubt myself sometimes, but initially when I made the decision, I wasn't nervous to start, because I felt like whatever I do at home would be better than the public school. And I just have to talk myself through that every time whenever I'm feeling like when I'm feeling those doubts come on. So there's that. Let's see, would you have any more kids? This has been a big topic of conversation in our household lately. So we have 4 kids, and our youngest is 2, almost 3. And I feel like he's at the age to where everyone's kind of asking us this question if we would have any more. I stopped saying that I was done after my second kid. Actually, after number 3, because I said that I was done after 1. I said that I was done after 2. And then after I had baby number 3, I was like, you know what? I'm not saying I'm done because I just don't know. And now I'm at the point to where, you know, we're not trying to prevent pregnancy or anything. Like, neither one of us is trying to prevent pregnancy. And I still say, oh, well, I don't know. But in reality, it's really not up to, it's really not up to us. I would be very grateful and thankful if God decided to bless us with another little baby. So the option's there. It's something that we talk about all the time. I would be more than happy to have another one. My husband is a little hesitant, but again, we're not doing anything to prevent it, and so if it's in God's plan, then sure, we'll take on another baby. Best thing about being a stay-at-home mom, and I think this kind of just goes with the reason why I pulled my kids home to homeschool, is I like being with my kids. Being with them can be hard. I can lose my patience, all of those things, but at the end of the day, I like that they're home with me. I really love my kids. I think they're awesome. They all have great personalities and they're fun little people, and I just love to be with them. I love the conversations that we have and the time that we spend together. So that's the best part, is just being able to learn who they are, all of the different things that make them who they are and their personality, and just being able to really know them well and love them well. And so that's it. I like having them here at home. Advice on moving away from family and friends. How did you cope? So if you don't know, I am an Air Force veteran, but so is my husband. We met in the Air Force. So that being said, I left home at 17. My mom had to sign for me to go to basic for me to be able to join the Air Force. And I left home at 17. I graduated high school at 16, and I left home at 17 to join the Air Force. And so I don't know how it would be to cope if you're older and you're still living around all of your family. But I didn't really have a choice. I mean, I had a choice, but I didn't. Once I signed those papers, I was gone. And I left, and I was at basic training. So there really wasn't time for me to sulk in the fact that I was gone away from my family. So I just had to cope. I'm not a back then, now, post 4 kids, I'm very emotional, but back then I was not a very emotional person. It was very easy for me to leave. I was only 17 and went to basic. From basic, I went to tech school in Florida, and then from Florida, my first base was in Colorado. And so after I got to my first base, I was still 17, and I married my husband shortly after being there, and I was only 18. So I don't know. I don't really know how to give advice on moving away from your family, because it was just, I mean, I was joining the military, and so I had to go. I had to cope. I wish I had better advice, but I don't. So let's see. My next question is, do you have a favorite book? I can't think of one specific book that is my favorite, but I can think of one that I really, really enjoyed recently, and that is, what is it called? It's by Allie Beth Stuckey, and it's You're Not Enough and That's Okay, Escaping the Toxic Culture of Self-Love. That book is so good. It brings like biblical principles to why you're not enough, and it's okay because you're not enough without Jesus. And I really like it. It's really well written, and I think that it's a really good book for college students and teenage girls who are probably struggling with their self-identity and in who they are and who God made them to be. It's really, I mean, it's great for adults too. So that's one of my most favorite books that I've read recently. Another really good book that I actually read it last summer, is Knowing God by J.I. Packer. That one is amazing. It's exactly what it says it is. It's all about knowing God and his character, and whether that's like his loving character and his grace, but also his wrath. So that was a really good book. So those are 2 that I've read recently that I can think of that I've really enjoyed, and I can't say that I necessarily have a favorite book. I read a lot of books and those two just stand out to me right now. Okay, and last, this wasn't a question, but this Simple Life 86 also made sure to let me know that she loves my channel, or that she loves my YouTube. So thank you so much. And thank you to all of you who submitted me questions. I am very grateful. I was so nervous that I wouldn't get a single one. So thank you so much for sending in your questions. I hope that this gave you a chance to get to know me a little bit more. It was so much fun filming this Q&A for you guys. So if you aren't following me on Instagram, go ahead and head over there and follow me at among.stouts so that you guys can be a part of the next Q&A and send me some questions that you might have. And that's all I have for you guys today in this video. If you guys enjoyed this Q&A, please hit that like button. If you aren't already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit subscribe. I'd love to have you here as a part of my community, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!